There are voices that echo through time, voices that seem to carry the weight of centuries, the ache of longing, and the hope of redemption. Andrea Bocelli's voice is one of those rare gifts, a sound that can move millions to tears, that can fill cathedrals and stadiums with a single note, that can make even the hardest heart believe in beauty again. For decades, Bocelli has been a symbol of grace, resilience, and the transcendent power of music. But behind the soaring arias and the standing ovations, behind the platinum records and the global fame, lies a story marked by heartbreak, loss, and a quiet courage that few truly understand. At 66, Andrea Bocelli's journey is not just a tale of triumph, but of tragedy, a life shaped as much by pain as by the music that has made him a legend. To the world, Andrea Bocelli is the blind tenor who conquered every stage, the man whose duets with icons like Celine Dion and Sarah Brightman became instant classics, the artist whose albums have sold more than 90 million copies worldwide. But to understand the depth of his artistry, you have to look beyond the spotlight. You have to see the little boy born in a small Tuscan village, the child whose parents were told to give up hope, the young man who faced darkness, both literal and metaphorical, long before he ever set foot on a stage. Andrea Bocelli was born on September 22, 1958, in Lajatico, Italy, to parents who had already been given devastating news. Doctors advised them to terminate the pregnancy, warning that their child would be born with severe disabilities. But his mother, Edie, refused. She chose hope over fear, and Andrea entered the world with congenital glaucoma, a condition that left him with severely impaired vision from birth. Even as a baby, Andrea's world was a blur of shadows and light, his future uncertain, his every step a challenge. Yet, from the very beginning, music was his refuge. Andrea's earliest memories are filled with the sounds of his mother's singing, the melodies of Italian folk songs drifting through their modest home. By the age of 6, he was already playing the piano, his fingers finding their way across the keys, as if guided by something greater than sight. Music became his language, his sanctuary, the one place where he felt truly free. But tragedy struck early. At the age of 12, a freak accident during a soccer game left Andrea completely blind. A blow to the head caused a brain hemorrhage, and despite desperate attempts by doctors to save his remaining vision, the darkness became permanent. For most children, such a loss would have been unbearable, a sentence to a life of limitation and sorrow. But Andrea, even in his grief, refused to surrender to despair. He turned to music with renewed passion, pouring his pain into every note, every phrase, every song. His teenage years were marked by struggle and resilience. He learned to navigate a world that was not built for the blind, facing prejudice, isolation, and the daily frustrations of dependence. But Andrea's spirit was unbreakable. He excelled in school, driven by a fierce determination to prove that blindness would not define him. He studied law at the University of Pisa, earning his degree with honors, all while continuing to nurture his love of music. He sang in piano bars to support himself, his voice slowly gaining recognition, his reputation growing with every performance. Yet, even as his star began to rise, Andrea's life was shadowed by heartbreak. The world saw the confident tenor, the man who could silence a room with a single note. But behind the scenes, he was haunted by loss. The loss of his sight, the loss of a normal childhood, the loss of dreams that would never be realized. Each triumph was hard-won, each success a testament to his refusal to be broken by fate. Andrea Bocelli's journey is a story of contrasts, of light and darkness, of joy and sorrow, of hope and heartbreak. It is a story that reminds us that even the most beautiful voices are often born from the deepest pain. And that true greatness is not measured by applause, but by the courage to keep singing when the world goes silent. Fame, when it finally arrived for Andrea Bocelli, was both a miracle and a test. The world first truly heard his voice in 1992, when the legendary Italian rock star Zucchero Fornaciari was searching for a tenor to record a demo of Miserere, a song he had written with none other than Luciano Pavarotti. Andrea's rendition was so powerful, so filled with raw emotion, that Pavarotti himself insisted the unknown singer be given a chance. That moment changed everything. Suddenly, the boy from Lajatico was thrust into the international spotlight. His voice echoing across continents, his name whispered in the same breath as the greatest tenors of all time. But with every new success came new challenges. Andrea's blindness, once a private struggle, became a public curiosity. Interviewers asked about it constantly. Fans speculated about how he navigated the world, and critics sometimes dismissed his achievements as mere novelty. Yet, Andrea never allowed his disability to define him. He answered questions with patience, met skepticism with humility, and let his music speak for itself. Each performance was a declaration: I am not here because of what I lack, but because of what I have to give. The 1990s were a whirlwind. Andrea's debut album, Il Mare Calmo della Sera, won the Sanremo Music Festival and launched him into the stratosphere of international fame. His follow-up albums, Romanza and Sogno, became global sensations, selling millions of copies and introducing a new generation to the beauty of Italian opera and pop. His duet with Sarah Brightman, Time to Say Goodbye, became an anthem of hope and farewell, a song that transcended language and culture, touching hearts from Tokyo to New York. Yet, even as the world celebrated his success, Andrea's personal life was marked by turbulence. The demands of fame were relentless: endless tours, interviews, and the pressure to always be perfect. For a man who had spent his life overcoming obstacles, the sudden glare of the spotlight was both exhilarating and exhausting. He missed the quiet of his childhood home, the comfort of familiar routines, the simple joys that fame could never replace. His marriage to Enrica Senzatti, the woman who had stood by him through years of struggle, began to unravel under the weight of his new life. The couple, who had 2 sons together, found themselves drifting apart, their bond strained by distance, public scrutiny, and the relentless pace of Andrea's career. The world saw the glamorous performances, the sold-out arenas, the adoring fans. But behind closed doors, Andrea faced the heartbreak of a family coming undone, the pain of watching his children grow up in the shadow of his absence. Despite the turmoil, Andrea remained devoted to his sons, Amos and Matteo. He called them his greatest joy, the light that guided him through the darkest times. He made every effort to be present, to share in their milestones, to teach them the values of resilience and kindness that had shaped his own life. But the guilt of missed birthdays, of long stretches away from home, weighed heavily on him. The applause of the crowd could never quite drown out the ache of longing for the simple, irreplaceable moments of fatherhood. Professionally, Andrea's star continued to rise. He performed for presidents and popes, sang at the Olympics and the World Cup, and collaborated with artists from every corner of the globe. His voice became a symbol of hope, a reminder that beauty can emerge from suffering, that music can heal even the deepest wounds. But the higher he climbed, the more he felt the distance between the man on stage and the man he was in private. The world saw a legend. Andrea saw a man still searching for peace. Through it all, Andrea Bocelli never lost sight of what mattered most. He remained humble, grounded by his faith, his family, and the memory of the struggles that had shaped him. He gave generously to charity, supporting causes for the blind and for children in need, determined to use his platform for good. But even as he gave to others, he could not escape the tragedies that continued to shadow his own life. For Andrea Bocelli, the years of global fame brought both new joys and deeper sorrows. The world saw the sold-out concerts, the standing ovations, the duets with superstars and the honors from presidents and royalty. But behind the curtain, Andrea's life was a delicate balancing act, one that demanded constant sacrifice, resilience, and a willingness to endure heartbreak in silence. After his marriage to Enrica ended, Andrea faced the pain of separation, not just from a partner, but from the family life he had always cherished. He and Enrica worked hard to remain united for their sons, but the reality of shared custody, the logistics of two homes, and the emotional toll of divorce left scars that would never fully heal. Andrea poured his heart into his music, using the stage as both sanctuary and confessional. Each performance became a way to process his grief, to transform pain into beauty, to remind himself, and the world, that even in loss, there is hope. It was during this period of transition that Andrea met Veronica Berti, a woman whose presence would bring both comfort and new challenges. Veronica, much younger than Andrea, became not only his partner but also his manager, helping to guide his career through the ever-changing landscape of the music industry. Their relationship blossomed, and in 2012, they welcomed a daughter, Virginia, into the world. For Andrea, the birth of his daughter was a miracle, a second chance at fatherhood, a new beginning that filled his life with light. Yet, even as he embraced this new chapter, Andrea was haunted by the fear of repeating old mistakes. The demands of his career had not lessened. If anything, they had grown more intense. The world's appetite for his music seemed insatiable, and the pressure to deliver, to always be at his best, was unrelenting. He worried about being absent, about missing the small moments that make up a child's life, the bedtime stories, the first steps, the quiet conversations that build trust and love. The guilt of the past lingered, a shadow that followed him from city to city, stage to stage. Andrea's blindness, too, became a source of both strength and vulnerability. He had learned to navigate the world with grace, relying on his other senses, on memory, and on the support of those around him. But as he grew older, the challenges multiplied. Travel became more exhausting, the unfamiliar hotel rooms more disorienting, the constant need for assistance a reminder of his dependence. He faced each day with courage, but there were moments, late at night, alone in a strange city, when the loneliness felt overwhelming. The tragedies in Andrea's life were not limited to his own struggles. Over the years, he lost friends and mentors, fellow musicians who had inspired and supported him. Each loss was a blow, a reminder of the fragility of life and the inevitability of change. He grieved quietly, channeling his sorrow into his music, finding solace in the act of creation. But the pain was real, and it left its mark. Despite these hardships, Andrea remained a beacon of hope for millions. His concerts became more than just performances. They were gatherings of souls, moments of collective healing, opportunities for people to find comfort in the beauty of his voice. He sang for those who could not speak, for those who had lost hope, for those who needed to be reminded that even in the darkest times, there is light. Through it all, Andrea's faith was his anchor. He spoke often of his belief in God, of the comfort he found in prayer, of the conviction that his voice was a gift meant to be shared. He gave thanks for every opportunity, every challenge, every moment of joy and sorrow. His humility, his gratitude, and his unwavering commitment to his art set him apart, not just as a singer, but as a human being who had learned to find meaning in suffering. As Andrea Bocelli entered his 60s, the world's adoration for his music only grew, but so did the weight of his personal burdens. The years brought new honors, Grammy nominations, sold-out tours, and invitations to perform at the world's most prestigious events. He sang for popes, presidents, and royalty, his voice echoing through ancient cathedrals and modern stadiums alike. Yet, for all the applause, Andrea's heart remained marked by the quiet ache of longing and the ever-present shadow of tragedy. The demands of his career were relentless. Each tour meant months away from home, from Veronica and their young daughter, Virginia. Andrea cherished the moments he could spend with his family, but the reality of his life was constant travel, unfamiliar hotel rooms, and the loneliness that comes with being a global icon. He often spoke of the bittersweet nature of his success, the joy of sharing his music with the world, tempered by the pain of missing birthdays, anniversaries, and the simple, everyday moments that make a family whole. Andrea's blindness, which he had always faced with courage, became more challenging as he aged. The physical toll of travel, the exhaustion of performing night after night, and the vulnerability of relying on others for even the smallest tasks weighed heavily on him. He never complained publicly, always presenting a face of gratitude and humility, but those closest to him saw the fatigue, the frustration, and the moments of quiet despair. The world saw a legend, his family saw a man who, despite his strength, was not immune to the ravages of time and circumstance. The COVID-19 pandemic brought a new kind of heartbreak. As the world shut down, Andrea found himself isolated in his home in Tuscany, separated from the audiences that had always been his lifeblood. The silence was deafening. For a man who had spent his life communicating through music, the absence of connection was a profound loss. Yet, even in isolation, Andrea found a way to give. On Easter Sunday 2020, he performed a solo concert from the empty Duomo in Milan, his voice soaring through the deserted cathedral and out into a world desperate for hope. The performance, streamed live to millions, became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in the darkest times, beauty and faith endure. But the pandemic also brought personal tragedy. Andrea lost friends and colleagues to the virus, and the fear of illness loomed over his family. He worried constantly about the health of his loved ones, about the future of his children, about the world they would inherit. The uncertainty was overwhelming, and the grief of so much loss weighed heavily on his heart. Yet, through it all, Andrea remained steadfast, drawing strength from his faith, his family, and the music that had always been his salvation. His relationship with his children became even more precious. Andrea made every effort to be present, to share in their lives, to teach them the lessons he had learned through hardship and perseverance. He spoke openly about his fears, his hopes, and his belief that love and kindness are the greatest gifts we can give one another. For Virginia, Amos, and Matteo, their father was not just a superstar, but a source of wisdom, comfort, and unconditional love. Professionally, Andrea continued to push boundaries. He recorded new albums, collaborated with artists from every genre, and used his platform to support charitable causes. He remained committed to helping others, especially those facing blindness or disability, determined to turn his own struggles into a source of hope for others. But even as he gave to the world, Andrea could not escape the sense of loss that lingered. A longing for the simplicity of his childhood, for the loved ones he had lost, for the peace that seemed always just out of reach. At 66, Andrea Bocelli stands as a testament to the power of resilience. His life is a tapestry of triumph and tragedy, woven together by the choices he has made and the challenges he has faced. The world hears the beauty of his voice, but only a few truly understand the heartbreak that has shaped the man behind the music. As Andrea Bocelli's journey continued, the contrast between his public persona and private reality became ever more profound. The world saw a man at the height of his powers, a voice that seemed untouched by age, a performer who could still bring audiences to their feet with a single note. But behind the curtain, Andrea was grappling with the relentless march of time, the fragility of health, and the bittersweet knowledge that every triumph was shadowed by the losses that had accumulated over a lifetime. The physical challenges of blindness, which Andrea had managed with such grace for decades, became more pronounced as he aged. Simple tasks grew more difficult, and the exhaustion of constant travel and performance began to take its toll. He relied more heavily on Veronica and his trusted team, grateful for their support, but also painfully aware of his growing dependence. For a man who had always prided himself on his independence and resilience, this new vulnerability was both humbling and heartbreaking. Yet, Andrea refused to let these challenges define him. He continued to perform, to record, to share his gift with the world. Each concert became more precious, each connection with his audience more meaningful. He spoke often of gratitude for the opportunities he had been given, for the love of his family, for the chance to bring comfort and hope to others through his music. But he also spoke of regret, the moments missed, the relationships strained by distance and time, the dreams that had been sacrificed along the way. The tragedies in Andrea's life were not limited to his own struggles. He watched as friends and colleagues faced their own battles, illness, loss, and the relentless pressures of a world that often values success over well-being. He mourned the passing of mentors who had shaped his career, of fellow artists whose voices had once joined his in harmony. Each loss was a reminder of the impermanence of life, of the importance of cherishing every moment, of the need to find meaning even in sorrow. Andrea's relationship with his children remained a source of both joy and pain. He delighted in Virginia's laughter, in Amos and Matteo's achievements, in the small, everyday moments that made family life so precious. But he also felt the weight of absence, the birthdays missed, the milestones celebrated from afar, the knowledge that his career had often taken him away from those he loved most. He tried to make amends, to be present whenever possible, to teach his children the values of kindness, perseverance, and faith. Yet, the guilt of the past lingered, a silent companion that no amount of success could ever fully silence. Through it all, Andrea's faith remained his anchor. He prayed for strength, for guidance, for the wisdom to accept what he could not change. He found solace in the rituals of daily life, in the quiet moments of reflection, in the embrace of his family, in the act of creating music that spoke to the deepest parts of the human soul. He believed that every note, every performance, was an offering, a way to honor the struggles he had endured, the blessings he had received, and the people who had helped him along the way. As he looked to the future, Andrea was both hopeful and realistic. He knew that time was precious, that every day was a gift, that the legacy he would leave behind was not just in the records sold or the awards won, but in the lives he had touched. He spoke of wanting to spend more time with his family, to mentor young artists, to use his platform to advocate for those who could not speak for themselves. He dreamed of a world where music could heal, where compassion could triumph over cruelty, where every person, regardless of their challenges, could find their own voice. At 66, Andrea Bocelli stands as a symbol of resilience, of the power of art to transcend suffering, of the quiet courage it takes to keep moving forward in the face of heartbreak. His story is not just one of tragedy, but of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, the human spirit can find a way to sing. As Andrea Bocelli stands at 66, his life is a testament to the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit. The world continues to marvel at his voice, to be moved by his performances, to find solace in the music that has become the soundtrack to so many lives. Yet, for all the beauty he has given, Andrea's journey is also a story of heartbreak, a reminder that even the most gifted among us are not immune to suffering, and that greatness is often forged in the crucible of pain. In the quiet moments away from the stage, Andrea reflects on the path that brought him here. He remembers the little boy in Lajatico, struggling to see the world around him, clinging to the comfort of music as a way to make sense of the darkness. He remembers the accident that took his sight completely, the years of learning to navigate a world that was not built for someone like him. He remembers the sacrifices his parents made, the love that sustained him, and the faith that gave him the strength to keep going when hope seemed lost. Andrea's journey has been marked by extraordinary highs and devastating lows. He has known the thrill of standing before thousands, the satisfaction of mastering a difficult area, the pride of seeing his children grow and thrive. But he has also known the pain of loss, the end of a marriage, the distance from loved ones, the deaths of friends and mentors who once walked beside him. The tragedies of his life are not always visible, but they are deeply felt, etched into the lines of his face, the tenderness of his voice, and the humility with which he greets each new day. Despite everything, Andrea remains committed to his art. He continues to seek out new challenges, to collaborate with artists from every corner of the globe, to use his platform to bring attention to causes close to his heart. He trains his voice with the same discipline that has always defined him, knowing that every performance is both a gift and a responsibility. He surrounds himself with family, with trusted friends, with the people who remind him of what truly matters. Yet, for all his achievements, Andrea is acutely aware of what he has lost along the way. The price of greatness has been steep, measured not just in physical challenges or missed opportunities, but in the relationships that have slipped through his fingers, the moments with his children that can never be reclaimed, the friendships that faded as the years went by. He carries these losses with him, not as regrets, but as reminders of the complexity of a life lived in pursuit of something extraordinary. In recent years, Andrea has begun to embrace a different kind of strength, the courage to be vulnerable, to acknowledge his pain, to seek connection in a world that often feels isolating. He has spoken more openly about his struggles, his hopes, and his desire to find meaning beyond the next concert or recording. He has reached out to old friends, reconnected with family, and made efforts to bridge the gaps that fame and ambition once widened. It is a quiet transformation, one that may never make headlines, but one that speaks to the enduring resilience of the human soul. For his fans, Andrea Bocelli remains an icon, a symbol of what is possible when talent, determination, and heart come together. His music continues to inspire, his story continues to resonate, and his example continues to light the way for anyone who has ever faced adversity and refused to give up. But for those who look beyond the legend, Andrea's greatest achievement may be his willingness to keep searching for connection, for understanding, for a sense of peace that has eluded him for so long. At 66, Andrea Bocelli stands as a beacon of hope. His life is a tapestry of triumph and tragedy, woven together by the choices he has made and the challenges he has faced. He is a star, a survivor, and above all, a human being, flawed, resilient, and still searching for meaning in a world that is as beautiful as it is unforgiving. So, as we look back on the journey of Andrea Bocelli, let us remember not just the tenor who filled the world with music, but the man who has endured, who has loved and lost, and who continues to inspire with his unwavering commitment to living life with grace. And before you go, don't forget to hit like as a gesture of tribute to Andrea Bocelli, a legend, a survivor, and a reminder that even the most beautiful voices carry stories of heartbreak that only they can truly understand.